General Insu Quan stood before the largest holographic star map ever assembled by humans. Red dots marked Velothi strongholds across the galaxy. Blue dots showed human positions. Green dots represented something new. Alien species that had risen in rebellion after hearing about human victories. The situation has changed completely, he announced to the War Council. 6 months ago we were hiding in asteroids. Today we are planning to attack the Velothi Empire directly. Commander Yujin Han, leader of the Special Forces teams, pointed to several green dots near Velothi space. My infiltration teams have successfully delivered resonance weapon plans to 12 different slave species. The Morthak rebellion on Kepler 442 destroyed 3 Velothi garrison fleets last week. Captain Hyunwoo Kim still found it hard to believe how quickly things had changed. What about the Velothi response to these uprisings? Panic, replied Dr. Yoonji Lim, who had been studying intercepted Velothi communications. Their high command is trying to fight rebellions on 47 worlds simultaneously. They have never faced multiple threats at once. Admiral Seung Ho Yu activated another display showing Velothi fleet movements. They are pulling ships back from the outer territories to protect their core worlds. For the first time in their history, they are playing defense. Dr. Jaewon Shin, the physicist who had perfected the resonance weapon technology, stepped forward with excitement in his voice. General, I have completed the World Breaker prototype. The room fell silent. Everyone had heard rumors about this ultimate weapon, but few knew the details. Show us, General Insu commanded. Dr. Jaewon activated a smaller hologram showing a massive device the size of a small ship. The World Breaker can generate a resonance field powerful enough to destabilize the crystal foundations of entire Velothi cities. One device could destroy everything on a planet's surface. How many do we have? Admiral Seung Ho asked. Only one working prototype, but if we can test it successfully, we can build more. General Insu Quan looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Then it is time for Operation Shatter. We take the war to them. The plan was audacious beyond anything humans had ever attempted. Instead of waiting for the Velothi to attack, they would strike at the heart of the Empire. Multiple human fleets would attack Velothi core systems simultaneously, using their new resonance weapons to destroy the enemy's most important worlds. Captain Taemin Kang, now commanding a squadron of larger ships equipped with ship-mounted resonance cannons, received his assignment. You will lead the attack on the fortress world of Veltandor. Intelligence says it houses 50 million Velothi military personnel. Understood, General. What about civilian populations? There are no Velothi civilians on military worlds. Every being on Veltandor is part of their war machine. Across human space, fleets prepared for the largest offensive in the species' history. Engineer Mi Young-song worked day and night to ensure every ship had the latest resonance. Weapons. Dr. So Young Park trained gun crews on the proper frequencies needed to destroy different types of Velothi crystal formations. Meanwhile, Commander Yujin Han's Special Forces teams were busy across the galaxy. On the slave world of Nexus Prime, they taught the native Zephyrians how to build resonance grenades. On the mining world of Asteroid 47, they helped the enslaved Clorthians sabotage Velothi supply lines. The psychological impact was devastating to the Velothi Empire. Species that had been slaves for hundreds of years suddenly had weapons that could kill their masters. Uprisings spread like wildfire across Velothi territory. High Overlord Zenthara, supreme leader of the Velothi Empire, stood in his crystal palace on the homeworld of Velith Prime. For 3,000 years, his people had ruled without question. Now reports of defeats arrived daily. How is this possible? He demanded of his war council. We are the perfect species. We are the apex of evolution. How can primitive humans and their slave allies defeat us? War Commander Vexthul, his military leader, struggled to explain. My lord, their weapons specifically target our crystal biology. They have turned our greatest strength into our greatest weakness. Then adapt, build new armor, create new defenses. We have tried, my lord. But adaptation takes time, and we are losing worlds faster than we can respond. The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They do not seek to conquer territory. They seek to destroy us completely. This was true. Human strategy was not about capturing Velothi worlds, but about eliminating Velothi presence entirely. Every attack was designed to kill as many of the crystal beings as possible, and to inspire more slave species to rebel. On Veltandor, The fortress world. Captain Tae-Min Kang led his fleet into the system. The planet was covered with massive crystal structures that served as barracks, weapons factories, and training facilities for the Velothi military. All ships, target the largest crystal formations, Tae-Min ordered. Remember, these are the beings who have enslaved half the galaxy. Show no mercy. The human fleet opened fire with their resonance cannons. The weapons sent focused harmonic waves toward the planet's surface. The crystal structures began to vibrate, then crack, then shatter completely. 50 million Velothi military personnel died in the first hour of the bombardment. Their crystal bodies could not withstand the harmonic assault. Entire military academies collapsed as their foundations resonated themselves to pieces. The space battle was equally one-sided. Velothi defense fleets tried to protect their world, but human ships had become too advanced. Resonance weapons tore through crystal armor like it was made of paper. Dr. Jae-Won Shin watched from the command ship as his world breaker device was deployed for the first time. The massive weapon descended toward Veltandor's surface, broadcasting resonance frequencies across the entire planet. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Every crystal structure on the world began to vibrate in harmony. Mountains made of living crystal cracked and fell. Cities built from crystalline materials collapsed into dust. The very ground beneath the Velothi's feet betrayed them. Veltandor is completely destroyed, reported the sensor officer. No life signs remaining. Similar attacks took place across Velothi space. Human fleets supported by rebel species wielding resonance weapons destroyed fortress world after fortress world. The Velothi Empire, which had stood for 3 millennia, began to crumble. In his crystal palace, High Overlord Zenthara received reports of defeat after defeat. Veltandor was gone. HFY had fallen. The industrial world of Crystallan was in ruins. My lord, War Commander Vexthul said quietly, perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans. Negotiate? Zenthara's voice echoed with disbelief. We are the Velothi. We do not negotiate with inferior species. But my lord, we are losing. Our outer territories are gone. The core worlds are under attack. If this continues, we will activate the final protocol, Zenthara declared. Better to destroy the galaxy than allow our defeat. The War Council fell silent. The final protocol was an ancient weapon, built eons ago but never used. It was designed to sterilize all life in the galaxy, rather than allow another species to claim dominance. My lord, that would mean the end of everything, including ourselves. Better death than dishonor. Zenthara replied coldly. Prepare the final protocol. If we cannot rule the galaxy, no one will. Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the human ship New Seoul, staring at the vast emptiness of space. 3 years had passed since Earth sent out colony ships to find new homes among the stars. His ship carried 15,000 people looking for a fresh start on a distant planet called Haven 7. The journey had been long and peaceful. Too peaceful, some might say. Hyunwoo had served in Earth's defense force for 20 years, but he had never fought aliens. No one had. Humans thought they were alone in the universe. Captain, called out navigator Jimin Park from her station, I'm picking up some strange readings ahead. Multiple objects moving toward us. Hyunwoo walked over to look at her screen. 5 large shapes appeared on the scanner, each one bigger than his colony ship. They moved in perfect formation like predators hunting prey. Are they ships? He asked. Yes, sir. But they're not like anything in our databases. The energy signatures are completely unknown. Dr. So-Young Park, the ship's chief scientist, looked up from her research station. Captain, those readings are incredible. The power output from those vessels is 10 times greater than our most advanced warships. Before Hyunwoo could respond, the communications officer, Lieutenant Tae-Ho Jung, called out urgently. Sir, incoming transmission. It's not in any human language, but our computers are trying to translate. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life. What appeared before them made several crew members step back in shock. The alien was massive, easily 12 feet tall, with a body that seemed to be made of living crystal. Sharp blade-like formations jutted from its shoulders and arms. Its face was angular and cold, with eyes that glowed like blue fire. When it spoke, its voice was deep and filled with authority. The computer's translation appeared as text below the image. Primitive beings. You travel in our space without permission. I am Commander Velthor of the Velothi Empire. You will surrender your vessel immediately and prepare for assimilation into our workforce. Hyunwoo felt his heart racing, but he kept his voice steady. This is Captain Hyunwoo Kim of the Earth vessel New Seoul. We're peaceful explorers looking for a new home. We mean no harm and claim no territory. The alien's expression did not change. Your intentions are irrelevant. All species serve the Velothi or cease to exist. You have one of your time units to comply. And if we refuse? Hyunwoo asked, though he already suspected the answer. Then you will be destroyed. This is the way it has been for 3,000 years. We are the apex of evolution. You are insects. The transmission ended abruptly. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Commander Dongmin Lee, Hyunwoo's military advisor, spoke first. Captain, our weapons are no match for ships that size. If they have the technology to travel between stars this easily, they're far ahead of us. How many people do we have who can fight? Hyunwoo asked. About 800 with military training. But Captain, we're a colony ship, not a warship. Our weapons are meant for asteroid mining and basic defense. Dr. So-Young Park was studying her scanner readings. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups in their weapon systems. Whatever they're planning to hit us with, it's going to be devastating. Hyunwoo looked around at his crew. These people had trusted him to lead them to safety, to a new life among the stars. He would not let them become slaves to alien overlords. All hands, this is the captain, he announced over the ship's communication system. We have encountered an alien species that demands our surrender. As humans, as free people, we refuse to bow to any master. Battle stations. The ship transformed from a peaceful transport into something resembling a warship. Civilians who had military training rushed to weapon stations. Engineers began rerouting power to shields and weapons. Parents held their children close and moved to the safest parts of the ship. Sir, Jimin called out. They're moving into attack formation. The Velothi ships spread out like the fingers of a giant hand, surrounding the human vessel. Each alien ship was sleek and deadly, covered in the same crystalline material as their commander. Energy weapons charged along their hulls, glowing brighter by the second. Fire everything we have, Hyunwoo ordered. The New Seoul opened fire with its mining lasers and small defense cannons. The beam struck the lead Velothi ship but barely scratched its crystalline armor. In response, one alien vessel fired a single energy blast. The attack hit the human ship like the hammer of an angry god. Systems exploded across the bridge. The lights flickered and died before emergency power kicked in. Half the crew was thrown to the floor. Damage report, Hyunwoo shouted. Shields down to 30%. Hull breach on deck 7 and 8. We've lost 2 weapon systems. Lieutenant Commander Min Ho Choi called out from the damage control station. Another Velothi ship fired. This time the blast tore through the ship's side like paper. Alarms screamed as sections of the vessel lost atmosphere. Captain, Dr. So-Young Park yelled over the noise. I'm reading something strange in their energy patterns. The crystal formations on their ship seem to channel and amplify their power. But there might be a weakness. What kind of weakness? I need more time to analyze it. But time was something they did not have. 3 more energy blasts struck the ship. The New Seoul was dying and everyone knew it. All escape pods launch immediately, Hyunwoo ordered. Save as many people as you can. Commander Dongmin Lee grabbed his arm. Captain, you need to come with us. If we're going to survive as a species, we need leaders. Hyunwoo looked at the tactical display. Escape pods were launching, but the Velothi ships were destroying most of them. Out of 15,000 people, maybe 3,000 would survive. Set course for the asteroid belt, he told Jimin. Emergency jump. Sir, the engines are damaged. We might not survive the jump. We're dead if we stay. The New Seoul vanished in a flash of light just as the Velothi ships moved in for the killing blow. They had escaped, but barely. In the command center of the lead Velothi ship, Commander Velthor studied the readings from the battle. The humans had lasted longer than expected, but only barely. Most were dead. The survivors would be hunted down later. He sent a message to the Velothi High Command. Human species encountered. Primitive, but showed minor resistance. Estimated threat level, negligible. Recommend standard cleanup protocols when convenient. To the Velothi, humans were just another weak species to be crushed. They had no idea that they had just made the greatest mistake in their 3,000-year reign of terror. Captain Taemin Kang checked his fighter's weapons one last time. The small ship was barely big enough for one person, but it carried humanity's hope in its weapon systems. Dr. So-Young Park's resonance disruptors had been mounted where the old mining lasers used to be. All pilots. This is Admiral Seung-ho, came the voice through his headset. The Velothi cleanup fleets have arrived at Colony 7. They expect an easy victory. Let us prove them wrong. Taemin looked out at the 11 other fighters in his squadron. Each pilot was a volunteer who knew they might not survive the next hour. But they also knew that humanity's future depended on what happened today. Phoenix Squadron. Prepare for jump, Taemin announced to his team. On Haven Station, Captain Hyunwoo Kim watched the tactical display with growing tension. 3 Velothi fleets had spread out across human space, moving toward the remaining colonies. Each fleet carried enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. Long-range sensors show the first fleet reaching Colony 7, reported Lieutenant Yoo-jin Park at the sensor station. They are taking attack formation. Dr. So-young Park stood next to Hyunwoo, nervously watching her weapons being tested in real combat for the first time. The resonance disruptors should work, but we have never tested them against moving targets in space combat. Commander Dongmin Lee pointed to another part of the display. The second fleet is moving toward Haven 3. The third is heading for New Busan Colony. Our fighters are in position at all 3 locations, Admiral Seung-ho reported. Operation First Strike is ready to begin. At Colony 7, the Velothi fleet commander, war leader Kethvar, looked down at the human settlement with contempt. The planet held maybe 50,000 humans living in simple buildings. Their orbital defenses consisted of a few outdated missile platforms and some converted cargo ships. This will take less than an hour, he told his bridge crew. Fire on the orbital platforms. Once space is clear, we will destroy the surface cities. The Velothi ships opened fire with their massive energy cannons. The first human orbital platform exploded in seconds. The second lasted a little longer before breaking apart. The converted cargo ships tried to run but were destroyed before they could escape. As expected, Kathavar said with satisfaction, humans fight like all the other inferior species, with desperation but no skill. That was when Phoenix Squadron dropped out of hyperspace directly behind the Velothi fleet. All fighters, target the command ship, Taemin ordered. Remember, hit the crystal formations along the hull. The 12 human fighters were tiny compared to the massive Velothi vessels. To Kethavar, they looked like insects attacking a giant. He laughed as his gunners opened fire on the small ships. Destroy these gnats, he commanded. But the human fighters moved like nothing the Velothi had ever seen. They twisted and turned through space, avoiding the heavy energy blasts with movements that seemed impossible. Their ships were small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. Taemin led his squadron in a diving attack on the command ship's crystal formations. His resonance disruptors fired, sending focused harmonic waves at the alien vessel's hull. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then small cracks appeared in the crystal armor. The cracks spread like spider webs across the surface. Suddenly, an entire section of the ship's hull shattered like glass. What happened? Kethvar shouted as his ship shook violently. How did such small weapons penetrate our armor? His science officer studied the readings with confusion. War leader, the weapon signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns are causing harmonic disruption in our crystal matrix. Another pass by the human fighters caused more damage. Large pieces of the command ship's armor fell away, exposing the inner hull to space. Impossible, Kethvar whispered. Our crystals are perfect. They cannot be destroyed by primitive weapons, but they were being destroyed. Fighter after fighter made attack runs on the Velothi ships. Each pass caused more damage than the Velothi thought possible from such small vessels. Lieutenant Woo-jin Nam, flying in Taemin's squadron, targeted the power core of a Velothi destroyer. His resonance disruptors found the ship's main crystal formation and began tearing it apart. The alien vessel lost power and began drifting helplessly through space. Phoenix leader to all fighters, Taemin called out. The weapons are working better than expected. Continue attack patterns. On the Velothi command ship, war leader Kethvar faced something no Velothi commander had experienced in 3,000 years. He was losing a battle. His perfect crystal armor was being destroyed by weapons he did not understand. Retreat, he ordered, his voice shaking. All ships fall back to hyperspace. His crew stared at him in shock. Retreat was not a word in the Velothi language. They had no procedures for withdrawal because they had never needed them. War leader, we do not have retreat protocols, his tactical officer reported. Then make some. Kethavar screamed as another section of his ship's hull shattered. The Velothi fleet tried to escape, but they moved slowly and predictably. The human fighters pursued them, continuing their attacks until 3 of the 5 alien ships were destroyed. The remaining 2 vessels limped away into hyperspace, badly damaged and carrying news that would shake the Velothi Empire to its core. Similar battles took place at Haven 3 and New Busan Colony. Human fighter squadrons using resonance weapons destroyed or damaged most of the Velothi cleanup fleets. For the first time in 3 millennia, the apex predators of the galaxy had been defeated. Dr. Yoonji Lim, the psychologist studying Velothi behavior patterns, watched recordings of the battles with fascination. "Look at their communications during the retreat," she told the command staff. "Complete confusion. They have no words for defeat because they have never needed them." Captain Hyunwoo Kim felt a mixture of joy and worry. "We won these battles, but now they know we are a real threat. The next attack will be much larger." Admiral Sung Ho-yu nodded grimly. "Intelligence reports say the Velothi High Command is in emergency session. They are trying to understand how inferior humans could destroy their perfect ships." Engineer Mi Young-song looked up from her weapons designs. "I am working on larger resonance weapons, ship-mounted systems that could take out their battleships. But I need more time." "How much time?" Hyunwoo asked. 6 months for prototypes. A year for full production." Lieutenant Woo Jin Nam, who had returned from the battle at Colony 7, spoke up. "Captain, we also discovered something else. When the Velothi crystals shatter, they release massive amounts of energy. If we could build a big enough resonance weapon, we could destroy entire fleets at once," Dr. So Young Park finished, her eyes lighting up with possibility. The first battles were over and humanity had won. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Velothi Empire would not accept defeat from a species they considered insects. The real war was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the attack on the New Sol. Captain Hyunwoo Kim now stood in a makeshift command center built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. The surviving humans had created a hidden base in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. They called it Haven Station. Dr. So Young Park worked day and night in her laboratory, studying pieces of Velothi technology recovered from the battle. She had barely slept in weeks. Dark circles surrounded her eyes, but her mind was sharper than ever. "Captain," she called out as Hyunwoo entered her lab, "I think I found something important." On her table lay fragments of the crystalline material that covered Velothi ships. Under her microscope, the crystal structure looked beautiful but deadly. "Each piece hummed with energy even when separated from its source." "What did you discover?" Hyunwoo asked. "The crystals are not just armor. They channel and amplify energy like nothing we have ever seen. But every crystal has a natural frequency, a vibration that makes it resonate." She picked up a small piece and placed it in a testing device. "Watch this." Dr. So Young activated a sound generator. At first, nothing happened. Then she adjusted the frequency. The crystal began to vibrate. She increased the power and the vibration became stronger. Suddenly, the crystal cracked and shattered into dust. "Harmonic resonance," she explained. "If we can find the right frequency and amplify it enough, we can make their crystals destroy themselves." Major Ji-hoon Choi entered the lab at that moment. He had just returned from a dangerous mission to gather intelligence about the Velothi Empire. His clothes were dirty and he looked exhausted. "Captain Dr. Park, you need to hear what I learned," he said urgently. They moved to the briefing room where other survivors had gathered. Commander Dongmin Lee was there, along with engineer Mi Young-song and Admiral Seung Ho-yu, who had been elected leader of all human survivors. "I spent 3 weeks on a trading station in the Outer Rim," Ji-hoon began. "The place was full of different alien species, all of them slaves to the Velothi Empire." He activated a holographic display showing star maps and species data he had collected. The Velothi have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They have conquered 847 different species. Every single one submitted after the first battle. "How is that possible?" Admiral Seung Ho asked. "Because the Velothi are perfect conquerors. They show up with overwhelming force, destroy the enemy's main fleet, and demand surrender. Every species gives up rather than face total extinction." Engineer Mi Young-song leaned forward. "What about rebellions? Resistance movements? None that lasted more than a few months. The Velothi way is simple. Crush all resistance immediately with massive force. No species has ever fought a long war against them, because no species has ever survived the first major battle." Dr. So Young Park's eyes lit up with understanding. "That means they have no experience with guerrilla warfare." They have never faced an enemy that keeps fighting after losing. Exactly, Ji-hoon continued. But there is more. I talked to slaves from dozens of different worlds. The Velothi all have the same weakness. They cannot imagine losing. The concept of defeat is alien to them. They have contingency plans for rebellions, for technical failures, for natural disasters, but they have no plans for what happens if they actually lose a battle. Admiral Sung-ho stood up and walked to the star map. How many Velothi are there? Roughly 50 billion spread across their core worlds, but only about 10 million are actual warriors. The rest are scientists, engineers, and administrators. 10 million warriors to control the entire galaxy? Commander Dongmin Lee sounded surprised. They do not need more. When you have never lost a battle in 3,000 years, you do not build large armies. You build just enough force to crush any resistance quickly. Engineer Mi Young-song had been quietly thinking while the others talked. Now she spoke up. Dr. Park, how long would it take to build weapons using this harmonic resonance principle? I have been working on prototypes. Give me 2 months and I can have small weapons ready. The kind that could hurt individual Velothi soldiers. And larger weapons? Admiral Sung-ho asked. Maybe 6 months for ship-mounted systems. A year for something that could damage their bigger vessels. Ji-hoon brought up another hologram. There is something else. I learned about Velothi psychology from the slaves. They are not just arrogant. They literally cannot process the idea of being inferior to anyone. It is built into their culture and their biology. What do you mean? Hyunwoo asked. For 3,000 years, every Velothi has been taught from birth that they are the peak of evolution, the apex predators of the universe. Meeting a species that can actually hurt them would be like humans discovering that mathematics is wrong. Dr. So-young Park smiled for the first time in months. Psychological warfare. If we can prove they are not invincible, their entire worldview collapses. Engineer Mi Young-song was already sketching designs for new weapons. We need to hit them hard and fast. Small attacks at first to test our resonance weapons, then bigger strikes to shake their confidence. The question is, how do we get close enough to use these weapons? Admiral Sung-ho asked. Commander Dongmin Lee pointed to the asteroid belt around them. We use what humans do best. We adapt, we improvise. We turn this entire asteroid field into a weapon. Over the following weeks, the human survivors worked like they had never worked before. Dr. So-young Park completed her first resonance disruptor, a weapon about the size of a rifle that could crack Velothi crystal formations. Engineer Mi Young-song began designing larger versions that could be mounted on small fighter ships. Major Ji-hoon, Choi trained infiltration teams to gather more intelligence and spread word of human resistance to enslaved species. Maybe other aliens would start to hope. Maybe some would even help. Admiral Sung-ho Yu established contact with human colonies that had escaped the initial Velothi sweep. Slowly, they were building a resistance network, but their time was running out. Long-range sensors detected 3 Velothi fleets moving toward human space. The aliens had finally decided to finish what they started. How long do we have? Hyunwoo asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3, replied the sensor operator. Dr. So-young Park looked up from her weapon prototypes. We will be ready. She did not sound completely confident, but her eyes burned with determination. The Velothi thought humans were just another weak species to be crushed. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the depths of space, the Velothi fleets moved steadily toward human territory. Their commanders expected an easy victory. After all, they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They had never been wrong before, but they had never fought humans before. Fleet Admiral Byung-ho Park commanded the largest human battle fleet ever assembled. 100 ships surrounded him as they approached the Velothi home system. Each vessel carried the most advanced resonance weapons that human science could create. Admiral, called out Captain Hee-jin. Oh, from her fighter squadron. We are detecting massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. Something big is powering up. Dr. Jae-won Shin studied the readings from his science station. Those energy levels are impossible. They are building something that could destroy solar systems. The final protocol was activating. Across SciFiPrime, ancient machines that had slept for millions of years began to wake up. High Overlord Zenthara stood in his command center, watching the doomsday weapons charge their devastating power. How long until activation? He asked his science commander. 6 hours, my lord. Once the protocol begins, it cannot be stopped. The energy wave will spread across the galaxy. destroying all biological life. Good. If the Velothi cannot rule, then no species will survive to claim victory over us. But humans had learned to expect the unexpected. Dr. J. Wan Shin had been studying Velothi technology for months, preparing for exactly this situation. "Admiral," he reported urgently, "I know what they are doing. The final protocol uses massive crystal formations to amplify destructive energy, but I have developed cascade resonators that can turn their own crystals against them." "Explain quickly," Admiral Byung-ho demanded. "Instead of destroying their crystals, we make them resonate in a pattern that spreads to other crystals. Like dominoes falling, but with harmonic frequencies, their doomsday weapon will tear itself apart." Captain Hyunwoo Kim, now serving as Admiral Byung-ho's strategic advisor, looked at the tactical display. "How close do we need to get?" "One ship needs to reach the planet's surface and deploy a cascade resonator directly into their main crystal formation. But the pilot would not survive. The resonance effect will destroy everything on the planet." The bridge fell silent. Someone would have to sacrifice their life to save the galaxy. "I will do it," Captain Hyejin-oh announced over the communication system. "My fighter is fast enough to reach the surface." "Captain, this is a suicide mission," Admiral Byung-ho replied. "Admiral, my family died on Colony 7 in the first Velothi attack. My children never got to see the stars because these crystal monsters killed them. I want to be the one who ends this." The battle for SciFiPrime began as the human fleet engaged the remaining Velothi defense forces. But this was different from previous battles. The Velothi fought with desperate fury, knowing their entire species faced extinction. Crystal warships larger than human cities emerged from the planet's surface. Their weapons could destroy human vessels with single shots, but the humans had learned to fight smart instead of fighting fair. Captain Tai-min Kang led fighter squadrons in hit-and-run attacks that confused the massive Velothi ships. Engineer Mi Young-song's latest weapon designs allowed small human vessels to punch holes in crystal armor that should have been impenetrable. On the planet's surface, High Overlord Zenthara watched his fleet being destroyed ship by ship. "How much longer until the final protocol activates?" 4 hours, my lord. But the humans are getting closer to the planet. Then we will hold them off for 4 hours. Alert all remaining forces. Captain Hyejin. Oh flew her fighter through the chaos of the space battle. Explosions lit up the darkness around her as ships died on both sides. Her small craft carried the cascade resonator that could save or doom the galaxy. "All fighters, clear a path for Captain O," Admiral Byung-ho ordered. Human pilots threw themselves at the Velothi defenses with desperate courage. Ships exploded as they rammed crystal formations. Pilots fired their weapons until their power cores overloaded. They bought time and space with their lives. Dr. Min Seo-jong, the historian who had been documenting the war, watched from the command ship as individual acts of heroism decided the fate of civilizations. "Admiral, we are witnessing the end of the Velothi Empire. 3,000 years of tyranny ending in a single battle." "Not yet," Admiral Byung-ho replied grimly. "We still need to stop their doomsday weapon." Captain Hyejin. O broke through the final line of Velothi defenders and dove toward the planet's surface. Her fighter's shields flared as enemy weapons tried to stop her. The ship's hull began to glow from the heat of atmospheric entry. "This is Captain O," she transmitted. "I can see the main crystal formation. It is huge like a mountain made of living light, beginning final approach." On SciFiPrime, millions of Velothi watched the human fighter descend toward their most sacred place. The Great Crystal had stood for 50,000 years, the heart of their civilization and their power. High Overlord Zenthara realized what the human pilot intended to do. Stop that ship. She must not reach the Great Crystal. But it was too late. Captain Hyejin O fired her ship's weapons at the crystal formation while activating the cascade resonator. The device sent harmonic frequencies directly into the heart of Velothi power. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The Great Crystal began to vibrate with a sound that could be heard across the continent. The vibration spread to other crystals, then to the crystal buildings, then to the Velothi themselves. "No!" High Overlord Zenthara screamed as his own crystal body began to resonate. "This cannot be happening. We are the apex species." But it was happening. The harmonic cascade spread across the planet like a virus of sound and vibration. Every crystal formation began to shake itself apart. Velothi buildings crumbled. Velothi bodies shattered like glass. Captain Hyojin O's final transmission reached the human fleet. Cascade effect confirmed. The planet is beautiful and terrible. Tell everyone that humans do not bow to monsters. Her fighter vanished in the explosion as the great crystal destroyed itself and everything around it. The Cascade Resonator's effect spread across SciFiPrime like wildfire. In 6 hours, the planet that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia was reduced to crystal dust floating in space. High Overlord Zenthera's last words, transmitted to the human fleet before his communication system failed, were filled with disbelief. Impossible. We were perfect. We were eternal. How could insects destroy gods? Then SciFiPrime was silent forever. Dr. Minseo Jong recorded the final entry in her historical archive. High Overlord Zenthara, last ruler of the Velithi Empire, died at 1432 Galactic Standard Time. The Velathi species, which had terrorized the galaxy for 3,000 years, is now extinct. Total time from first human contact to complete Velathi extinction, 2 years, 7 months, 12 days. Admiral Byung-ho Park stood on his command deck, looking at the empty space where SciFiPrime had once been. Send word to all human colonies and allied species. The Velathi Empire is finished. The galaxy is free. Across the galaxy, enslaved species celebrated their liberation. Humans, who had been dismissed as primitive insects just 3 years ago, were now hailed as the saviors of civilization. Captain Hyunwoo Kim, now an old man, would later stand before a monument built to honor the extinct Velathi. His words became famous throughout human space. They called themselves Alpha. They believed they were the ultimate predators, the peak of evolution. They ruled for 3,000 years and thought they would rule forever. But they made one mistake. They underestimated the species they called insects. In the end, they were not even the apex predators of their own extinction.